First thing that I found very odd about, this Christian conservative company is they rented 2 stripper vans to take us out to the city. Once we got down to the bars in Arizona, they started getting us drunk.
Why is this all just feeling so the opposite of godly, almost satanic? Yeah, speaking literally of satanic. Many of you were emailing us regarding a certain board member at Turning Point USA.
But when you go after my family, my Turning Point USA family, my Charlie Kirk Show family, going after the people that I love because somehow they're in on this, no.
You're not gonna believe this. A whistleblower once deeply embedded inside the heart of TPUSA. Yes, Turning Point USA, the controversial conservative youth organization fronted by Charlie Kirk himself, has just leaked secret footage so bizarre, so out of character for their public image. It's leaving the internet speechless. And no, this isn't some harmless backstage footage or old office prank. We're talking weird late-night parties, alleged team building, events involving stripper vans, and staffers caught mocking Charlie Kirk himself, the very man whose image they're paid to protect. You thought this organization was about clean-cut, flag-waving, family-first values. Think again. This footage, recorded secretly.
Kirk came in as leader. I don't even know how to explain it. The vibe just shifted, instantly.
And now smuggled out by an anonymous ex-insider, tells a very different story. One of hypocrisy, chaos, and a shocking behind-the-scenes culture that seems more like a frat house than a political movement. According to leaked texts, audio recordings, and never-before-seen videos, some TPUSA events allegedly turned into late-night parties with inappropriate behavior, bizarre rituals, and even paid entertainment that would make most donors' jaws drop. And the worst part? Staff members were joking about it the entire time, including subtle digs at Charlie Kirk, caught on camera, laughing behind his back like it was all one big game. So how much of this is real? Why is no one from TPUSA speaking up? And what happens when millions of dollars in donor money are allegedly being funneled into this kind of behavior? Because this might not just be a scandal. This could be the beginning of TPUSA's total collapse. Stay right where you are, because what we're about to uncover will make you question everything you thought you knew about Charlie Kirk's empire. To understand the gravity of what just got leaked, you have to first understand what TPUSA was supposed to be. Turning Point USA, founded in 2012 by a then-teenage Charlie Kirk, came out the gates like a firebrand, a youthful, meme-driven, high-energy machine designed to turn conservative politics into something cool. It wasn't just about policy. It was about branding, optics, turning freedom into a lifestyle. TPUSA quickly became the pipeline for ambitious college conservatives, recruiting influencers, staging flashy events, and hosting massive conferences that felt like Coachella for right-wing politics. Charlie Kirk became a brand in himself, sharp haircut, tailored suits, always armed with zingers for the libs. He was photographed with Trump. He was given his own radio show. He was a star. And behind that, a massive network of corporate donors, religious groups, and political operatives funneling millions into TPUSA's operations. From campus chapters to online activism, TPUSA rapidly built a reputation as the face of Gen Z conservatism. Their events boasted speakers like Candace Owens, Matt Gaetz, and Donald Trump Jr. Their content reached millions, but behind that perfectly polished image, something was off. Whispers had been circling for years. Former chapter leaders started quietly speaking out in closed forums. Anonymous Reddit accounts claimed bizarre stories, parties during conferences, selective favoritism, staffers rewarded for looks rather than merit. But none of it stuck, because TPUSA was airtight. Anyone who left disappeared. Anyone who questioned the brand, labeled a liberal plant or a traitor. Until now. Until someone from inside decided to burn it all down. The whistleblower, who we'll refer to as Riley for safety, wasn't a fringe member. They weren't some short-term intern or one-off contractor. They were embedded in the National Operations Team for 2 full years. And in that time, they claimed to have witnessed systemic rot. Not just mismanagement or gossip, but an actual culture of elitism, excess, and mockery of the very values TPUSA promotes. Riley first reached out to a mid-sized independent journalist via a burner account, sending a simple message. I worked at TPUSA, I have videos, I have proof, and it's worse than you think. Within 48 hours, the footage was verified. Some clips were low-res, others high-quality, recorded via hidden phones, security footage leaks, and even internal Zoom recordings secretly downloaded and preserved. The journalist, whose identity we're withholding at this time for legal reasons, confirmed at least 4 separate internal staff IDs, 2 event schedules and timestamps matching real TPUSA conferences. The footage, it was shocking. The first clip shows a TPUSA afterparty during their America Fest conference. Loud music, dim lights, TPUSA staffers dancing inappropriately with alcohol flowing even though the event publicly claimed to be dry. Another shows what Riley calls a stripper van. Yes, seriously. According to Riley, certain high-performing staffers or social media influencers associated with TPUSA were rewarded during conference weekends with late-night rides in a luxury party van, complete with poles, tinted windows, and onboard LED lighting. The kicker, donor money allegedly funded it. The van was categorized in internal expense documents as VIP transport for guest speakers. But those inside were not speakers. They were mostly young influencers, some barely of drinking age, alongside mid-level male managers who seemed more interested in clout chasing than advancing political ideas. One leaked text thread pulled from a group chat titled TPUSA includes messages like, "UO, can we get the van again this weekend? Tell redacted to mark it under logistics lol, stripper pole still intact or what?" Faced with tears of joy, Charlie would lose his mind if he saw this Elmao, that last message. Chilling. Because that's where this story starts to twist. Because behind all the drinking and debauchery, there's something else, mockery. Mockery of Charlie Kirk himself. Multiple clips, now posted in encrypted forums and backed up in the Whistleblower's full archive, show staffers openly joking about Charlie behind his back. One video shows a group of junior staff in a hotel room pretending to do Charlie impressions. In the clip, someone puts on a blazer, slicks their hair back with hotel lotion, and begins to rant. "Facts don't care about your feelings, but my face cares about this lighting. Turn it up, peasant." Laughter explodes in the room. Another video shows someone at a bar in TPUSA merch joking. "You know what Charlie calls a staff meeting? A mirror?" Even more disturbing is an audio clip from a Zoom call, where a high-ranking events manager says, after confirming final plans for a conservative women's summit, "Just make sure the lighting is right so Charlie doesn't have a meltdown. You know how sensitive our alpha male gets." Again, all off-record, all behind closed doors, but very real. And yet, while these clips show mockery, they also reveal something more disturbing: a double life. Because the same people who stand on stages, waving the Bible, preaching morality, and quoting the Constitution, are apparently living very different lives after the lights go down. This isn't just a scandal about hypocrisy. This is a full-blown identity crisis. TPUSA promotes traditional values, abstinence, Christianity, order, but the Whistleblower's files allegedly reveal staffers involved in heavy drinking on official trips, private group chats rating female chapter leaders' appearances, expensing luxury hotels and entertainment that never made public records, and this is just scratching the surface. Because Riley claims they're holding back one final drop, something that involves donor fraud, something involving surveillance of chapter leaders, and something so big it could force TPUSA to face congressional oversight. In an encrypted message, Riley wrote, "This is just part 1. I haven't even touched the real documents yet. If Charlie doesn't come clean, I will." And that's where things get terrifying, because now the clock is ticking. Will Charlie Kirk respond? Will TPUSA try to silence the whistleblower through legal means? Or will the public demand transparency from an organization that claims to stand for truth and freedom? The footage didn't just leak. It detonated. Within 6 hours of the first Dropbox link being posted anonymously on X, formerly Twitter, the TPUSA tapes were everywhere: Telegram groups, YouTube reaction videos, Reddit threads, even in fringe conservative Facebook groups normally too loyal to Charlie Kirk to ever entertain dissent. But this time, the silence wasn't loyalty, it was shock. Because for all the rumors, all the allegations that had swirled for years around TPUSA's after-hours culture, no one expected to see actual proof. And certainly not like this. One of the first clips to go viral was from a TPUSA leadership retreat in Phoenix, Arizona. The setting: a massive Airbnb mansion rented under a shell LLC where TPUSA senior staff held a private gathering after their youth summit. At first glance, the footage looks like a standard party: red Solo cups, music thumping, people dancing. But as the camera pans, it captures a group of staffers, clearly wearing TPUSA-branded polos, drunkenly chanting, "Freedom! Strippers, let's get lit!" The chant is followed by someone swinging on a pole in the living room. Yes, a pole. In a TPUSA rental property. The next scene shows a staffer passing what appears to be a company-issued credit card and yelling, "Put the Uber on Charlie." Boom. Instant meme. The phrase, "put the Uber on Charlie," trended on X for 6 straight hours, with users posting parody videos, TikToks, and memes that twisted TPUSA's ultra-serious branding into a mockery. A photo of Charlie Kirk edited onto a Magic Mike poster. Turning Point After Dark, trending alongside Charlie's Angels But Drunk. TikToks reenacting the leaked party scenes with captions like, "When your job is defending God, but you defend tequila instead." But it didn't stop there. Because just as the footage was starting to gain steam, the whistleblower, still operating anonymously, dropped a second bomb. They uploaded a Google Drive folder labeled, "TPUSA Internal, What Charlie Doesn't Want You to See." Inside, audio recordings of private planning meetings where staff joke about intentionally inflating campus chapter numbers to impress donors. Internal messages between senior staffers debating whether to cancel a chapter leader who was caught in a same-sex relationship, while simultaneously defending a male staffer accused of harassment. A spreadsheet of influencer payments showing that some brand ambassadors were paid up to $12,000/month, while full-time grassroots organizers were scraping by on minimum wage. But the one file that really turned heads, a PDF titled Major Donor Tracking Sheet. It listed over 40 high-dollar donors, including several names tied to political PACs and evangelical megachurches. And beside each name, handwritten notes like, "Keep away from AM Fest Party, too conservative. Loves Charlie. Don't let him see behind the curtain. Wants clean optics. Send carefully curated recap deck only." These notes suggested blatant manipulation of donor perception, and the outrage that followed was immediate. Which brings us to the first major twist. A donor came forward, and not just any donor. Darren Whitmore, a mid-tier contributor who had donated over $180,000 to TPUSA since 2019, released a statement to local media, and then went live on a small independent channel to say he was cutting ties with TPUSA immediately. In the video, Darren looked visibly shaken. "I believed in Charlie's mission. I really did. I thought I was funding a movement to restore values to America, but seeing the way they partied with our money, seeing how they mocked us behind the scenes, it broke my heart." He continued, "I sent money so they could reach kids, not so they could rent stripper vans and mock Christ behind closed doors. And now I find out they knew exactly who I was and actively worked to lie to me." Darren then pulled out what he claimed were email receipts, correspondence between himself and a TPUSA development staffer who had repeatedly sent curated event summaries, allegedly leaving out any mention of the post-event VIP activities. But it gets darker. Because within 24 hours of Darren's video, 3 more donors came forward, one of whom is reportedly tied to a major Christian television network, and began hinting at the possibility of a class action lawsuit. The legal angle. Fraud if TPUSA knowingly solicited donations under the preteens of promoting biblical values and youth morality, while secretly sponsoring unethical behavior. They could face legal exposure for misrepresentation and misuse of funds. And here's the wildest part. The documents also suggested these activities weren't just random, bad actors on the team. No, some of the events, parties, and luxury expenses appeared to be approved. A staff calendar entry labeled TPUSA Elite Lounge Invite Only showed that events like these were scheduled, planned, and even logged into their CRM system. One line item even said, "Book Sprinter van, tinted, polls okay, 11:30 p.m. pickup." Polls okay. You can't make this up. Meanwhile, Charlie Kirk's silence was deafening. As the story exploded online with number stripper van TPUSA trending globally, Kirk's accounts remained quiet. No tweets, no Instagram stories, no livestream rants. Until one awkward, he addressed his audience with a vague statement. "There's been some noise online lately, rumors, leaks, videos. None of it reflects who we are at Turning Point USA." He didn't deny the footage. He didn't acknowledge the van, or the parties, or the mocking. He just pivoted, saying, "We are a mission-driven organization. We're growing, and with growth comes attacks. That's all I'll say for now." People weren't buying it. In fact, the lack of a full-throated denial only fueled more suspicion. Reddit exploded with threads dissecting the body language in his video. A body language expert on YouTube posted a breakdown titled, "Charlie Kirk is lying, here's how you know," that hit 700,000 views overnight. The whisper campaign inside conservative circles began to shift. Even some right-wing influencers, normally fiercely loyal to Charlie, began softly distancing themselves. One tweeted, "If even half of this is true, we need to clean house." Another posted, "I still believe in the mission, but I don't know if I believe in the leadership anymore." The final moment of chaos came when the whistleblower dropped one more teaser, a blurred-out screenshot of what appears to be a private Slack message from a top TPUSA executive. The message reads, "If Riley talks, we're F-ed. Legal needs to lock that down. And scrub the van expenses ASAP." That's right, someone from the top trying to bury the truth. And just like that, the narrative shifted from just some staffers having fun to cover-up. Because if there's one thing Americans hate more than a scandal, it's when the people in charge try to hide it. And Riley says they're just getting started. "The next drop is 10x worse," they posted in a secure thread. "Charlie should have resigned when he had the chance." Just when you thought this couldn't get any messier, it did. Because the second the internet got their hands on that Slack screenshot, the one implying TPUSA execs were trying to scrub the van expenses and silence Riley, the story stopped being about leaked footage and started becoming a potential criminal cover-up. That one blurred-out message turned into a digital manhunt. Redditors, Twitter sleuths, and even former TPUSA staffers began analyzing every piece of metadata, Zoom background, and calendar leak from Riley's earlier drops. And what they uncovered was chilling. The infamous stripper van, the one from the leaked video now seen by over 12 million people across platforms, wasn't just a one-time indulgence. It was part of a recurring booking under a travel coordination company called Liberty Jet Transfers, based out of Tempe, Arizona. Here's where it gets even weirder. This company had almost no online presence, no reviews, no functioning website, and its only registered employee was a man named RJ Massey, a former low-level staffer at TPUSA who left in 2021 after an HR complaint, then mysteriously resurfaced as a private contractor 2 months later. And guess what? He was listed in internal budget docs. Yes, the same docs Riley leaked under Event Logistics Elite Liaison. The community exploded, screenshots poured out, TikTok stitched the timeline. But one particularly brave voice took it to another level. Kayla Vaughn. If you don't know the name, you will now. Kayla is a rising conservative influencer, once a golden child of TPUSA. She had the look, the camera presence, the perfectly curated Instagram feed full of Bible verses, MAGA hats, and glamorous selfies from TPUSA's Women's Summit. But this week, she shattered her own image. In a sudden Instagram live that went on for 47 unfiltered minutes, Kayla broke down sobbing, shaking, and according to her own words, unburdening herself from the guilt of being silent. "I was in the van. I was there. It happened more than once," she confessed, wiping away mascara tears. "And I stayed quiet because I thought if I spoke up, they'd blacklist me. They threatened me with contracts, NDAs, everything. We were told to smile for the camera during the day and forget what happened at night." Her confession included explosive details. Staffers were encouraged to mingle and network in these late-night settings. Drinks were provided even for those who were underage, but only the cute ones were invited, according to Kayla. Anyone who questioned the events, blacklisted, benched, or moved to admin behind the scenes. The vans were parked strategically outside TPUSA hotels, and security was told to stay in the lobby. Kayla's livestream was screen-recorded and re-uploaded thousands of times. Within hours, her name trended nationwide. People were calling her the TPUSA Whistle Princess. But here's where the story truly escalated into chaos, because Kayla revealed she had screenshots, and not just any screenshots. DMs from a well-known political operative, one who works closely with multiple right-wing PACs, thanking her for playing along and calling her a true team player. The exact quote, "You're doing God's work. We all have to play the game sometimes. Charlie trusts you." Yes, Charlie's name was right there. And if that wasn't enough to throw TPUSA into a tailspin of damage control, Riley decided to finally go live. No voice changer. No hidden face. Riley stepped out of the shadows. A former national logistics manager, face fully shown, streamed from an undisclosed location with files, receipts, videos, and one terrifying claim. They weren't just throwing parties. They were monitoring chapter leaders. They were tracking student organizers' social accounts, DMs, even private group chats, and they were actively suppressing dissent. Riley showed internal dashboards from TPUSA's Salesforce and HubSpot systems. Yes, real CRMs, with metadata proving that individual chapter leaders were being flagged for things like liking moderate Republican tweets, following certain LGBTQ+ influencers, posting swimsuit photos too often. According to Riley, there was an unofficial red list of problematic youth leaders who were quietly removed from event invites or pulled from speaking roles. They claimed to be a movement of free speech, but behind the scenes, it was pure surveillance, and if you stepped out of line, even once, they'd ghost you like you never existed. This part of the leak sent the student movement into revolt. TPUSA college chapters began posting en masse on Instagram and TikTok, sharing their own experiences. I was removed from the group chat after calling out a male staffer. They told me my podcast wasn't on brand and cut my funding. I spoke up about the hypocrisy, and they blocked me from the summit. Multiple chapters began threatening to disaffiliate entirely, some even deleting their chapter Instagram pages in protest. But the biggest twist came next. Because in all the chaos, someone did a little digging on RJ Massey, the shady contractor running the party vans. Turns out, he's not just a random guy. He's connected to a private security firm with deep ties to multiple political campaigns, including state GOP networks, and a controversial former congressman known for aggressive campus activism. Public records showed $180,000 in payments from TPUSA over 3 years to entities affiliated with Massey. None of those payments were ever disclosed in donor-facing financial reports. But more disturbing, a leaked Zoom call shows Massey joking to a group of staffers, "They think we're running youth conferences, we're running optics operations." Boom. That quote alone, optics operations, lit a firestorm across conservative media watchdogs. Overnight, TPUSA's claim to being a grassroots, values-based movement collapsed under the weight of their own secrets. Even conservative voices like Glenn Beck, Steven Crowder, and Ben Shapiro, usually hesitant to air right-wing dirty laundry, started asking questions. One of Shapiro's Daily Wire writers tweeted, "I'm not saying I believe everything from the leaks, but if even 25% is true, TPUSA has lost the moral authority to speak for our movement." As pressure mounted, Charlie Kirk finally posted again. This time he looked panicked. In a brief clip, he appeared visibly shaken, seated at his desk with multiple folders in front of him. "We're reviewing all internal procedures. If any misconduct occurred, it will be handled. But I caution everyone watching not to trust anonymous leaks and edited videos designed to smear us." Still, no outright denial. And Riley smiled in their next post and wrote, "The videos weren't edited, they were time-stamped. And they were yours." Boom. The ball was now firmly in Charlie's court, but he was running out of time. Because the final video leaked that night wasn't footage of a party, it wasn't screenshots or Slack messages. It was a full internal training video from 2022. In it, a TPUSA director lays out the event marketing playbook, but in one unscripted moment says the quiet part out loud. "At the end of the day, we're not here to win debates. We're here to win attention. That's what donors pay for. And if the kids have fun while doing it, even better." And just like that, the myth of purity, of grassroots activism, of youth-driven passion collapsed. Because if this entire empire was built on attention, deception, and performative values, what's left when the curtain drops? By the time the internal training video surfaced, the one that admitted TPUSA wasn't about truth, but about attention, the dam had fully broken. What began as a few, shocking, leaks was now a full-blown conservative civil war, playing out in real time across every platform, news outlet, and group chat from Capitol Hill to TikTok. First came the massive digital uproar. X, formerly Twitter, was an inferno. The hashtag number Turning Point Exposed was trending globally, beating out celebrity gossip, sports playoffs, and even geopolitical headlines. Verified accounts and blue-check influencers across the political spectrum began weighing in. At Gen Z Right, "I gave everything to TPUSA, time, passion, money, now I feel duped, heartbroken." At TrueCon Mom, "I let my daughter join this group because they said they'd protect her values. Now I find out they were partying in stripper vans behind the scenes. I want answers, now." At LibWatcher, "The hypocrisy is expected, but the sheer scale. The systemized deception, TPUSA is done." Even neutral observers were stunned. A Washington Post journalist tweeted, The fall of TPUSA could become the most dramatic implosion of a youth political organization in modern American history. And in the comment sections, you could feel the rage, but also the betrayal. Conservatives who had long defended TPUSA as the future of their movement were now questioning everything. One parent commented on a viral video, "I sent my 19-year-old son to a TPUSA leadership conference last year. He came back disillusioned, said it felt like a frat party. I didn't believe him. Now I owe him an apology." Another said, "I gave $50 every month to TPUSA. That might not be a lot to some people, but it meant something to me. And now I find out they spent it on VIP lounges, van parties, and influencer bonuses. No, never again." And that was just the grassroots. Because the political establishment, they went into panic mode. Several sitting members of Congress who had previously spoken at TPUSA events, especially from the House Freedom Caucus, were reportedly in closed-door meetings, deciding whether to distance themselves or go silent. An anonymous aide leaked to Politico. "Everyone's trying to figure out where the blast radius ends. Do we cut ties? Do we issue statements? Charlie's team is begging us to stay quiet." But silence was no longer an option. Senator Blake Monroe, a rising Republican star from Texas and former TPUSA keynote speaker, shocked the internet when he posted a strongly worded thread. "I built my political foundation on values: faith, discipline, patriotism. What I've seen in the last 72 hours from TPUSA is not reflective of any of those. Until there is full transparency and accountability, I will no longer participate in their events or accept invitations." That was a turning point, because once Monroe spoke out, the dominoes fell. Two prominent evangelical leaders announced they were reevaluating all partnerships with Turning Point. A Florida University chapter officially dissolved and posted a TikTok burning their TPUSA banner. Candace Owens, known for her own controversial takes, cryptically tweeted, "I warned y'all about these clout chasers. TPUSA was never about the people." Even liberal celebrities began chiming in. Sarah Silverman posted a parody skit mocking Charlie's after-hours adventures. Trevor Noah did a full 10-minute segment titled, "Turning Point USA" or "Turning Up USA." But it wasn't just media. Corporate donors began pulling out. A leaked email from a major software company, previously a TPUSA sponsor for youth entrepreneurship programs, confirmed they were suspending all financial support pending an internal review. Another leaked internal message showed a representative from a prominent Christian book publisher saying, "We are beyond concerned. This does not align with our mission, and we are halting all partnerships with immediate effect." And here's where the collapse deepened. Because several event venues that had previously hosted TPUSA conferences canceled future bookings. A major hotel chain in Dallas reportedly revoked TPUSA's 2024 summit reservation, citing public backlash and brand safety concerns. And it wasn't just institutions. TPUSA insiders were defecting. Multiple former staffers began going public, backing Riley's story and sharing their own experiences. One revealed he was told to inflate attendance numbers for reports. Another shared she was warned not to dress too conservatively if she wanted social media visibility. A former chapter coordinator dropped DMs of male supervisors offering career favors in exchange for after-hours time. Even TPUSA's own influencers, the social media backbone of the brand, began posting cryptic stories, vague apologies, or announcing that they were stepping away. The fall from grace was instantaneous. Charlie Kirk, once the polished face of Gen Z conservatism, was now a meme, a symbol of hypocrisy. His old clips, where he preached morality, discipline, and standing up for what's right even when no one's watching, were now playing over footage of vans, parties, and leaked chats. And in the background, a new movement was rising. Several disillusioned chapter leaders banded together to form a group called True Point, a new youth organization claiming to stand for genuine integrity, transparency, and conservative values without hypocrisy. Their first post read, "TPUSA was our training ground, but we refuse to carry their sins forward. We're building something real." Within days, they had over 100,000 followers on Instagram and were reportedly fielding donor interest. And as for Charlie, he released a final statement, his most serious yet. Visibly stressed, he sat in what appeared to be a hotel room, flanked by two legal aides. Turning Point USA is undergoing a full audit. If violations occurred, they will be addressed. I take personal responsibility for not having stronger oversight, and I apologize to our supporters, our students, and our staff. But again, no direct acknowledgement of the van. The parties, the surveillance, just vague references to lapses in judgment and bad actors. And for many, that wasn't enough, because the people didn't just want an apology, they wanted the truth, and Charlie still wasn't giving it. Just when it felt like things couldn't possibly escalate any further, when the dust was starting to settle, and TPUSA leadership seemed to be calculating damage control moves behind the scenes, Riley struck again. Only this time. They didn't post on Twitter, they didn't upload to YouTube, they didn't go live on Instagram. They sent one single encrypted file to every major media outlet, conservative and liberal alike. The email subject line, "Final drop, if this doesn't end him, nothing will." And the attachment, a compressed zip folder labeled TPUSA Shadow Operations Zip. What was inside sent shockwaves not just through TPUSA, but through entire conservative media pipelines. Because this wasn't another video of drunk interns or even private Slack threads. This was something different, something deeper, something that proved everything critics had long suspected was true. Inside the folder was a detailed 57-page internal strategy deck from early 2023. The title of the document, Youth Influence Acquisition and Behavioral Shaping, Internal Use Only. That's not a typo. And yes, behavioral shaping was the actual phrase used. The document outlined a multi-phase strategy built around recruiting college students, not just for conservative advocacy, but to subtly manipulate online behavior, reinforce tribal identity, and polarize public discourse for maximum virality and ideological entrenchment. And it got darker. One slide was labeled Target, Weak Minds, Strong Voices. The notes described this as young individuals with low independent reasoning but high social media engagement, ideal vessels for brand amplification. Another slide outlined psychological profiles of youth influencers, rating them on a scale from free thinker to brand soldier. One particularly disturbing part, an entire subsection titled Cultivation Through Isolation. It described methods for gradually separating student leaders from non-aligned peers, encouraging ideological purity, and rewarding them with praise, status, and public recognition, as long as they stayed in line. And it worked. The proof was in the influencers who rose fast and burned out faster, those who went viral for parroting TPUSA talking points, then mysteriously vanished the moment they started asking questions. But the real nuclear-level bombshell came at the end of the deck, a set of bullet points under the title, Charlie's Protocol, Keep Internal. These included, always control the narrative, never admit fault publicly. If a scandal breaks, blame disgruntled ex-staff or deep state operatives. Donor trust his perception, don't lose it over transparency. If influencers rebel, nuke their access and ghost them immediately. Moral slip-ups. Spin it as humanizing and pivot fast. And right there in black and white, never let them see the van. It was the final nail, because this proved not only that TPUSA knew what was happening, but that they had a playbook to manage it. Within minutes of this document leaking, social media imploded again. Screenshots flooded every platform. YouTubers streamed themselves reading it live. TikTokers reenacted the protocol like it was a cult playbook. Even mainstream media couldn't ignore it anymore. CNN ran the headline, Turning Point Exposed, Internal Docs Reveal Behavioral Shaping Campaign. Fox News, silent at first. But by the 10 p.m. broadcast, Laura Ingraham broke ranks, saying, "This is not conservatism, this is manipulation disguised as a movement." But the story still wasn't over. Because Riley, calm, controlled, and unapologetic, posted one final video on a burner account titled, Why I Did It, Riley's Final Message. In it, they spoke directly to the camera, face fully lit, no filters, no distortion. I worked inside TPUSA for years. I believed the mission. I bought the shirts, said the lines, lived the life. But somewhere along the way, I realized it wasn't about freedom. It was about control. You want to know why I leaked everything? Because these people are creating a generation of followers, not leaders. They don't care about the kids, they care about the brand. Then came the part that shook even Riley's supporters. They pulled out a binder, one filled with contracts, receipts, NDAs, and surveillance logs. You've seen the van, you've seen the parties, you've seen the control. But what you haven't seen yet is what they did to me when I tried to walk away. Riley claimed they were threatened with lawsuits, followed by unknown men in black cars, and even had their family contacted by someone pretending to be from a Christian counseling center. They tried to scare me into silence. But I won't be scared, I'm not the only one. There are dozens more watching, waiting, ready. Then the final words, almost whispered, "Charlie Kirk, this isn't over, not by a long shot." Blackout. The screen faded to black. The internet froze, and the silence was deafening, because now, this wasn't about some van, or strippers, or parties, or even manipulation. This was about a system, a deliberate structure of deception built to shape the future and punish anyone who resisted. TPUSA wasn't just exposed, it was fractured. And what comes next? No one knows, but one thing's clear, Charlie Kirk is no longer untouchable. And now we turn it over to you, after everything you've just seen, the van. The secret footage, the mockery, the manipulation, the cover-ups, the behavioral shaping, the leaked documents, the influencer control, the cult-like protocols. And Riley's final chilling words, we have one simple question. Is this the beginning of the end for Turning Point USA? Or will Charlie Kirk find a way to silence this storm and spin the narrative one more time? We want to hear what you think. Sound off in the comments right now. Do you believe Riley's leaks are 100% real, or is there more to this story? Was Charlie Kirk complicit, or just out of the loop? Should TPUSA be shut down, reformed, or rebuilt from scratch by a new generation of leaders? And most importantly, did they really think no one would ever see the van? This is your moment to join the conversation. Your voice matters more than ever, especially as this story continues to develop and new whistleblowers prepare to step forward. Backhand index pointing right, drop your hottest take in the comments. Backhand index pointing right, smash that like button if you made it to the end, because you saw through the fog. Backhand index pointing right and hit subscribe if you're ready for the next drop, because trust us, this is not over. We're hearing whispers about donor money being laundered through shell influencers, a second whistleblower with direct ties to Charlie's inner circle, and a TPUSA cleanup team currently being assembled behind closed doors. More footage is coming, more names are about to be named. So stay alert, stay watching, stay questioning, because if you don't demand the truth, they'll just keep rewriting it. Fire, this has been the turning point you were never meant to see fire, and trust us, we're just getting started. Subscribe now, buckle up, and we'll see you in the next expose.